everyone, I'm Mark de Grasse, and you're listening to Podcast Mark, where we talk about personal development, professional development, and business development in that order, trying to find the intersection of all three, and usually ending up with self-help and I would say philosophy is a big aspect of the show. So a very special guest, my friend Owen Video. We worked together at Digital Marketer. He was one of our social media experts specializing in video, oddly enough, with your name. He's awesome. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Welcome, Owen.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great intro. I love it. I love like getting intros. It reminds me of like the old days with Kings and the fanfare. It's like da-da, da-da.
Here he is.
I love it.
Well, I always see you online, and you were actually one of the first people I thought of because I know that you've been through, some really heavy stuff. And then recently you moved out of the country. Are you in Costa Rica, was it?
Costa Rica, yeah. Tamarindo,
Okay.
incredible town, area, culture, pura vida, man.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, and was it kind of abrupt, or was it kind of like was it in the
No, this
plans
has
all
been
along?
on our radar for a long
Okay.
time. I have a cancer story, as you well know, where I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer, and the doctors told me, go home, get your affairs in order. And then I went through a personal revolution that ended up in me being completely cancer free. And just, in fact, I've been cancer free for 1 year
Wow.
as of like the test result just came in like last week. So
Congrats.
cancer free for 1 year. I did not do chemo. I did not do radiation. And coming out of that situation is, I would imagine, somewhat like coming out of a battle of war. And, you realize things about life and mortality, and you kind of come to this place of, we have today, and it's like, am I living my life for some future someday,
Mm.
or am I living my life? And my wife and I, we had the same conversation. It's like, let's go now. We can do it now. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? And so we planned on this. We kind of investigated some towns and made a plan to do this. And so there was a lot that went into this, and this is just the beginning. We have other plans as well, and we've decided to live our life this way. And that's something that's really exciting for us. It's new, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, that's a huge decision, but I'm 100% with you. And I've actually only recently got there to like the present moment where I'm like, oh man, you could feel any way you want right now.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no future. I think a lot of time, and what I was personally doing was just accumulating. Like I'm like, okay, to be happy, I need this and this
yeah.
and this, and then I'll be happy. And it's like, why are you qualifying a feeling?
Now, let me say this. Let me say this too, because like I know that we both have a spiritual side. I talk about my spiritual side, and I'm a believer in Jesus, and I'm a believer that like contentment. Because I know someone's listening and go, oh well, you just need Jesus and your life will be content. But I'm here to say, look, there's still challenges on the road. You know what I mean? Like, I am a churchgoer. I go and I do those things, and I still got stage 4 cancer, and it's like, what now, God, am I supposed to do? Right. And so there's these deeply challenging scenarios that we can't bumper sticker our way out of. And that I find like motivating and inspiring. And I can't wait to see what adventure lies ahead through the calculated sort of risks that I'm willing to take.
Ugh.
And for me, that's kept me, number one, reading, right? Like reading a lot on like right now I'm reading only books by CEOs. And that's my whole year. That's what I'm gonna do all year. But I just came from not a year, but a small season of reading Stoics and like samurai.
Oh, nice.
The samurai book called the Law of the Five Rings, ancient book. I mean, really incredible stuff. And just like, how do high level people think, right? And so you've got to keep like filling your mind and filling your day with these activities that make you strong enough to overcome the inevitable battles that will come regardless of who or what you believe in.
Oh man, that's such a good point. Well, and I think it's a lot of people kind of separate those two things where you're like, oh, Christianity and spirituality, those are different things. And then you have the side where it's like, oh, you need a Jesus. It's like, yeah, Jesus actually demonstrated everything that we're supposed to be and kind of encourage us to be a certain way. And yes, he is the way and the light, but you could do some work. And
Right?
honestly,
That's
if
good.
Well, and if you look at, challenges, because I think I had to kind of change my perspective on problems, as problems are opportunities, right? We always say problems are opportunities, but if you look at it from the spiritual, Jesus, Christian perspective, it's like they're not only, something that's going to happen, they have to happen. And if you look at your whole life as a series of opportunities for growth, then you couldn't do anything if you're on the wrong path and didn't have a problem.
Oh,
So
you know what
there you
I
go.
think of it? It's like that water drop going down the car window. You're a
Mm,
kid, it's a rainy day, and you're just looking out the window and the water drops are racing, you know? It's like it doesn't fall perfectly, right? It kind of like wiggles its way down. And that's how I see the journey, right? Of all things, the journey through business, the journey through marriage.
mm,
And even going from like we've gone from like newlyweds, uh-oh, did
mhm,
we did we make a mistake here? Never putting divorce on the table, but like there was certainly a time of like, wow, we are not getting along the way we thought we were going to. Going from that to like thriving marriage
mm,
to deeply challenged marriage, 3 kids under 3, stepson who is 7, a dad who doesn't particularly care for our way of life. I'm out hustling. I had a video camera. I'd take it out with me and go to San Diego, downtown San Diego, knock on doors. Hey, I'll make a YouTube video for you right here,
wow,
right now, for $20 back then was like what I was charging. So I'm doing that all day and then coming home to all this other stuff. Like that does something different. It carves you out. And if you're not prepared to go into that, or if you thought it was going to be flowers and lambs, I feel like that is what has made me extremely resilient, right? And the longevity that I bring to this space, I
mm,
was at the first of events that are no longer events, people that are no longer the thought leaders, and yet I'm still here. And I'm not bringing that up to brag necessarily, but like I am aware that my ability to counter challenges and
mm.
face them have made me stronger. And for those reasons, it's like you become grateful for the
Oh,
challenges.
but
Number one. And then number two, you learn how to ask different questions. I feel like
mm,
last year, the year before, it was the power of asking yourself good questions. And one of those, one of my mindset shifts was this. It was like, instead of asking why this happened, um, uh, like ask, how do I go from here?
mm.
And like
It
what, so
happened.
yes, yeah, exactly. And so you're not digging into the hits of it all, you know what I mean?
Mm,
But actively just training your mind to always not just find the bright side, find the treasure, man. Like find the oil, the underground oil, like
mhm.
spill or whatever. It's like find that in this situation.
Well, and the thing is, once you start looking, you start to realize that it's always there, and then well, I love what you said about gratitude too, because I think that was my biggest shift was realizing like, no, I'm not in need. I have everything. I
Yes.
have way more than I need. Like
Yeah.
this is an amazing situation.
Yeah.
And the only thing I have to do is not screw it up for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so once you
You
get
know,
there, now you're good.
going to Costa Rica with the family, it taught us a lot about minimalism
Mm.
and how little you could take with you, right? You can only take so many bags with you. Um, and how much we could do with how little. Oh my gosh. And it's like all of a sudden the limited activity of the pool or the beach all day
Mm.
became this really cool thing because there isn't a mall, right? There isn't a bowling alley. There aren't so many of these things. And we're just like, cool.
Yeah, whatever.
You know? Yeah. Yeah, and it's like so the gratitude part is just always so huge. In fact, that's my new kind of muscle. My buddy Ben Azadi, who's just this incredible keto fitness and wellness guy, talks a lot about vitamin G and gratitude conquers everything. And so I'm working on this new sort of season in my life of going through gratitude in moments of anxiety or stress. You know what I mean? It's like, hang on, let's just take stock here of what's going on. Okay, I'm healthy, I'm alive. why the heck am I alive? Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. And then, it just like keeps on going and going. And you're like, you know what? Let's go. Whatever we got today. Interview with Mark, I can handle that. Let's go.
That's what I say too. I'm like 5 interviews in a row and teach a course and all this stuff. I'm like, well, you end up being grateful for it because when you have that gratitude, you're like, oh, thank God I have so much work to do.
And
Like, thank God.
yeah. And what fun work we have.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that is a trick though. So, well, let's talk about that because I think that your story about, walking around houses in San Diego to shoot some videos and cold calling, that's
Yeah.
that's super impressive. But when did you kind of realize that like video was where you wanted to like live your life? Because I think you've taken it to the
so
limit.
early on, man. Like
Mm.
grew up in LA, 8 or 9 years old. Families, everybody ever was playing Nintendo. Nintendo's the hottest thing. And we had a Nintendo. But I was playing with my dad's shoulder mount, sort of record the Pee Wee League game camera, all these videos that your family never watched. I was making stop motion animation videos and just kind of, loved video my whole life. In high school, I was into theater and performance. I was also an athlete. So there was like tension between those two worlds.
Oh yeah. Was it Glee? That's what the basis was.
What's that?
Glee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I toured all over the country with choir, like Irvine singers. Was like the thing that I was into and didn't really love that. What I really loved was like writing and performing was kind of my favorite thing. And I was going to be an actor, that was the whole goal. So then real life struck and it's like, man, I don't have any skills. Like I didn't plan. I was going to go audition and kind of anyway, I wanted to make money. I got into business, sales, marketing, and I watched how those two just went hand in hand, you know what I mean? So when YouTube came out, there was this sense of finally, like a pathway forward for me. So I had an education in video. I went to school for media studies. I knew how to do this. And so I immediately, like as soon as YouTube started, like I was working this job in radio and advertising, and then there was some drama at that job and I was asked to leave. And I'm walking out with my box and my plan. And I was in sales, man. I was doing the most sales out of it. I was #1 leader in the board. And I'm brash and I'm kind of just like, look who's on top. Who is that? Who's that name?
Scoreboard.
Up there? Right? So kind of alpha male and didn't work in this largely female environment. So they, anyway, I was let go. And I go, I'm going full time with YouTube. And so the 49ers came into my mind, the California Gold Rush. It was like, who made more money, right? Was it the gold miners? Should I be making viral videos and being funny and doing skits and stop motion? Should I do that? Or should I teach them? Should I sell them the shovels? Right? Should I build a restaurant? Right? And that's what I decided to do. That's what I felt my education was designed for. So it was like this great calling, this entrepreneurial venture mixed with this college education. And so I went door to door knocking on, I was brand new newlywed. I went door to door and I'll make a video for you right now today. $20 if I can do it right now. Can I come back, do my hair? I'll wear the right thing. Hey, if I come back, it's $100. And we did 6 figures that year.
Wow.
Most of that was on the comeback, was like, can you do 5 more for me? Like, I'm having a sale. Can you come film that? And then that build my website and make my Facebook page. And so that's like, I developed this really complementary skill of doing 2 things. Number one, like I know how to make videos that will get views in any industry. I don't care what industry you're in. Like, you don't have to sing, you don't have to dance, right? But you can't wing it either. You can't just be like, I'm so good at what I do. Yeah. And 2, like we know how to drive traffic to funnels. And that's something that you and I like geek out on is I love talking about funnels and CRO. And I could look at a page and be like, oh, that button's the wrong color for this page. You know what I mean? And do that stuff. But that's kind of the origin story.
Man, that's amazing. Well, it's cool to realize it soon because when I was a kid, I was the same way. I had my dad's camera and we used to do the stop motion and, take the little Matchbox car and like roll it and then go in dad's car and like, we're rolling. And then you split, piece it together. Like I used to, I used to love that. We and my friends and I got like really into, we started using fireworks and like mini figures and we'd set all these things up. But I got distracted and which is hilarious because I come back to video every so often where I was like, my childhood was all video. And then the business that I actually sold, my big success story was actually built by video where and it wasn't complicated video. All we did was I realized in the fitness market that all the fitness trainers would just talk too much. So I'm like, hey, what if we just made videos where we just showed the exercise happening and then we showed it in
So at
slow-mo?
the time, revolutionary.
Yeah, well, it still is. Like I still can't find these videos anywhere where I'm like,
Yeah.
haven't everybody realized like you don't have to like talk people's head off, like they just want to see some crap.
Oh,
But that built that business, and then I immediately took that success and decided that graphic design was really where it was at. And so I backed off, and
you're
now
an
I'm getting back
artist
into
then.
video again. Oh,
So
it's
you're
ridiculous.
like you're an art guy first, and it's like you looked for an industry that would allow like pay you for that.
Yeah, well, I like design, and and honestly, I hated being in front of the camera. So I had very low self-worth, and so it was basically like, nobody wants to see me, and so I constantly
So
hid.
so where did that come from?
Oh, the hiding? Oh, I was, childhood trauma. Whole bunch of crap where I'm like, now I could see it, but I was like, no, I never wanted attention. I always wanted to be anonymous. Like that was kind of how I grew up, was like, if I'm just anonymous, everybody will be fine and leave me alone. And
Yeah.
so that took what, 39 years to get over, which was
Let me
like a
tell you.
transformation I had like a year and a half ago. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's not about, you know, attention is bad. It's just about, hey, what can I provide to people? And if that involves me being on camera, then great, whatever,
What a breakthrough though for
Oh,
you.
that, huge. Yeah. That was,
You know,
well, now I
now,
speak on stage. But actually, I'll tell you what set it off was me going to Costa Rica to speak at an
oh,
event. And then
were
I
you-
was like, oh, I can do this now. And then
yeah,
now I do that all the time.
yeah. Part of my cancer journey, a big part of it was I actually feel it was the home stretch. Like
Mm,
I was already changed my diet. I was doing a lot of fasting. And I'm feeling good every day, right? Every day.
mhm.
I was like, there's no way I could be sick, right? So I'm feeling really good. But my scans just weren't clearing up. They're just kind of stagnant. So it wasn't like no evidence of disease yet, right? It wasn't like so and what's that breakthrough? What's that breakthrough? And I was listening to a podcast by my
Mm,
buddy Ben Azadi, interviewing a cancer doctor, and she started talking about the ACE test, right? Which is adverse childhood experiences, ACE.
mhm.
And it's like 10 questions, a scale of 1 to 10, something like this. And the higher you are on the scale, the more likely you are to receive a cancer diagnosis.
Oh,
And a
wow.
lot of questions about abuse and about neglect and all these things. And this is what got me thinking. You mentioned childhood trauma, like me thinking, see, because mine was the opposite. Like I kind of was loud and in front because I was always told that like I was nothing, right? And it's like
Mm,
I was kind of that Rudy, parents said I'd be nothing. Like my mom used to tell me I'd be a trash man. Like there's not much I could hope for, right? She was all the talent in the
mm.
family. And I found out years later my mom comes from all this abuse. Because you're thinking, what kind of a woman?
Yeah.
Don't
It's not,
rape.
yeah.
It's like, so you go like, oh, and so I had a whole history of drugs and alcohol. And this is not the Owen you see before you today. I went through this radical sobering up process way before I became a Christian.
Mm,
Um, I became a Christian when I was like, I'm ready for I want to live, I'll get married and stuff. And that's when I met a girl who was like, you need to know Jesus before you get any farther. So anyway, there's a whole different story there, but my, that's my point is that like, when you say that stuff, I totally relate. It was such a process to
mm.
face that in a therapeutic, like professional setting. And like, I'm this big, like alpha male social
Yeah, I
media.
got everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where your brand transcends visibility, embedding itself into the consciousness of your customers. Welcome to the AI Branding Bootcamp, where this vision becomes reality. Dive into AI-powered research, strategy, and execution to create a brand that's not just recognized, but felt. From crafting your brand's avatar to mastering AI-generated content, emerge with a brand that resonates deeply. Ready to transform your brand into an unforgettable experience? Join us at the AI Branding Bootcamp. The future of branding begins now. No, that's well, and you can't grow. I mean, how do you fill up a cup that's already full? You know, it's
Oh,
just the old saying. And that's the funniest thing is after because I used to know all this self-help stuff back when I did real estate in college because it was like that was the thing you did. You went to webinars, you got all fired up, and then you were
yeah.
supposed to buy the program. So I was like, man, I've heard all this stuff before, but I just never believed it. And then I got into fitness, and it was the same thing. I always heard mindset's important, nutrition is really medicine and all these things. And even then I was like, no, you just need to work out better. You're just being
Oh
lazy.
my gosh, man. I was working out full time. I mean, full time. I was like dedicated. I was like, I'm a
Yeah,
systematic guy.
daily. Yeah.
So I was like waking up and running to the gym, working out at the gym, and then running home. Uh, Whey protein. And if I had a treat, I'd have like a piece of sourdough bread before going to Starbucks, and I would go to Starbucks and like plan my day, right? During that whole time, I'm thinking I work out every day, I run, I'm drinking whey protein. I'm thinking like I'm living a healthy life. And yet, like, boom, cancer hits me, right? Now looking back, I look back at the pictures of me back
Mm,
then and I see like, oh my gosh, that is an unwell person in that picture. First of all, I was easily 50 pounds, maybe more bigger than I am
no.
today. So shedding that weight was like just a huge part of the healing process. Um, but then, also like what I was like striving for all the time, like really focused on being the influencer for influencer's sake. Like I've gotta stay on top. Like, am I being invited to the
Mm,
conferences? Um, am I getting on the podcasts? And I wasn't even like focused on the business anymore.
yeah.
I was like more focused on like I don't know. I don't want to call it the fame, but it's something. It was something other
Yeah,
than
just yeah, it's just the elevation of you and you're already awesome and you got to stay on top. I think
yeah.
you said it right, just the alpha, because I think the alpha is just this construct that we've made up to show that you're in charge, and if I don't look like this, then I'm not representing who I really am. And it's all this made up stuff where it's like, no, how do you actually feel? What if
Oh,
nobody gave a crap? What if it was just you? How
that's
would
the
you
big
feel?
one. That's the big one. And that's kind of what's been on my mind a lot lately is like, what would you do if nobody were here to judge you for it? Right.
Oh,
And it's the littlest things, man. Sometimes it's like, I am gonna get up and grab that menu and look at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna wait or give me a menu. I'm just gonna go grab it. It's these little things that I think at the end of it, I one of them for me is just like being a more attentive father, right?
oh,
Being making this decision that from a place of gratitude, right? It's not
yeah.
like we haven't had any success. We've had some success, and I praise the Lord for that success. But like I could be here for 10 years. I could be here for 10 years. Financially, like nothing changes. We kind of just hover on top of the economy kind of thing. To watch my kids grow
Mm,
and to be the number one man in their life, the number one counsel, the number one sort of like mentor,
mm,
priceless. Because you know what? They'll be out of the house in like 8 summers.
yeah.
And then I can go to Portugal and we can build our company. We can do whatever we want whenever we want. But I've got to release these 4 valiant soldiers into the
Mm.
world. You know what I mean? And I got to make sure that they're now. I don't think it's gonna be that way. I don't think I do have to hover, but it's like coming to that place where like I would be content if,
That's a good perspective. Yeah,
right?
because I think it's just being satisfied. Like, hey, I have enough. I am enough, and I'm gonna enjoy this moment when my kids are this age. I think that's why I take so many pictures of my kids and all the events that we go to because I'm like, I'm not gonna miss this. Like,
Oh yeah.
but that's a different kind of future worry because one of the reasons why I started doing it was because it was like, oh well, I don't want to be in my 60s and be like, I really wish I got more videos of my son and I
Yeah, yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
So
You're
you're
already.
like future guilt, and you're
I
like,
get that,
oh,
man. Yeah.
what are you talking about? Who cares about
Totally.
that guy?
We started because I don't take a lot of I film for a living, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. You
I'm
know,
ready to be done at the end of the day. But I set up our TVs to do slideshows.
uh,
Um, so like that's kind of the value for me is like I want to see this come back on our TV throughout the week. You know what I mean?
oh yeah.
I read this in like I don't remember what book it was. It might have been Beat Cancer Daily. It was like this daily journal that I
Okay.
had. but it was like, go through your old photos instead of watching an episode tonight, right? So instead of going
Oh,
to Netflix tonight, just go back and flip through old photos. And I tell you, that's just become like a joy for me. It's like, oh, I remember, like, I was so great, like sometimes a bunch of screenshots. It's like, oh, that's when that video was blowing up, or,
oh
like
yeah.
they're taking all these, analytic shots or whatever. But
That's funny.
yeah,
No, and that's actually one of the things that Apple and Facebook does that I actually enjoy, where I'm like, oh yeah, this day 10 years ago you were doing this, and you're like, oh holy crap, I can't believe it's been that long. I have no time perspective, by the way. Like I I try to tell people, I'm like, I never miss anybody because in my mind I just saw you.
just saw you. It's so good, man. And like you're a hustler, you're a grinder. I like it. Like oftentimes like you kind of connect with people and you get to see how they are, and I'm like freakishly productive. At least I like to think of myself as that
Nah, you
way.
seem to be.
I
You're
was like,
you're everywhere, it seems
go
like.
here, go here, go here, go here, and then I go to hang out with you, and we're building this course together. This is like it feels like a couple months ago. Who knows? Like, and we just got so much done, and you were just like, I got this, I got this, I got this, and I just loved like the proceduralism of it all.
Mm,
Like I really gravitated to that. My wife is much more free spirited, right? My wife is much more just like dinner 6, 8 o'clock, who knows,
whatever.
right? And but I gotta be in bed by 8 and no food for 3 hours before, this whole thing.
No,
But
well, for me, I mean, it's all just about efficiency. It's kind of like,
yeah,
hey, you're out here. That's a ton of work to get you out here.
oh yeah,
All I have to do is plan stuff. Like I could plan stuff. You're doing all the work anyway. So it's almost like, showing my appreciation for the people
least I
involved.
could do.
Just yeah, at least I could do is make sure we get 100 pieces of content. Let's go do a photo shoot. We have time.
That's true. That's true. I remember going to the park and it was cold, and it's like, act like it's warm, act like it's not cold. Uh,
You did great. Those are some great pictures.
they were great pictures actually, and it was fun. Like I said, it's like, oh, that's great. Like that's how easy it is to get some social media pics, because I'm in this place where it's like, oh, I can get stuck in these places where it's like, oh, I gotta have
Yeah.
this professional thing and da 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 da. And getting so much more comfortable with like, um, just who you are publicly. Um, Not so worried about am I, how am I appearing to this person? Being okay with they might remove me, and really, I have a tendency. I'm like a friendly guy. Like, I don't want to mess with it. My opinion is not worth ruining the party. Is kind of the thing, right? It's just
Uh,
like. So
oh,
it's like maybe like an in-depth conversation where we talk about some stuff, but it's just like, we don't need to talk about that here. Like we're having a good time.
Oh,
Um,
went the exact opposite way. I was
really,
like, oh yeah. Oh, that's the slogan for the podcast is share everything. So I literally just say exactly what I feel about literally everything because I was in the box of like, well, I was in a bunch of places, but I was like a shell of like, okay, well, I'm not showing you who I am, so you're not showing me who you are, and
yeah,
we're pretty even there.
yeah,
Also, you don't care what I say, I don't care what you say. Like
yeah,
this is just how life is. And so I
yeah.
had to get rid of that. And then I started realizing that I was having these conversations in my head constantly with
Wow.
zero feedback. And so when I started opening my mouth and being like, well, here's what I think about that, then it was like, oh, holy crap. I've never
Oh,
heard that before. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I need to start sharing more stuff
the
because
joy of getting out of your head.
oh, it's great. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm kind of the opposite, right? In that I come from a history of sharing everything,
Yeah.
right? I remember when Facebook, no, it had to be Friendster.
Friendster. Okay.
Okay. It's like, how dare you go back to Friendster? But when you're picking screen names, and it's like Jezebel 27. Everyone's like picking these screen names where you don't know who
Oh,
they
yeah.
are. And then Friendster quickly moved into like Facebook or MySpace or something. But I remember making this decision is that I would be myself online. I would not
Mm,
have a domain that hid who I was, right? And I had this kind of this policy of transparency. But I also learned about oversharing and becoming
mm.
vulnerable. And it's like how people, again, it's not all people. It's certain people that are toxic, and you don't recognize it because you're seeking their acceptance, right? And so you're sharing too much. And so like I got hurt, I got burned, And then I had to find that balance between like, I want to be who I am, but I also don't want to like shock people
Mm.
with like, whoa, like that was a pretty big thing that you just said in front of people, right? Even into marriage, my wife was like,
Oh,
she goes, that was like a pretty big thing to say in a webinar. I think it caused people to think about things other than YouTube. And so just balance in my life. And it's just neat how like we have different starting points,
mm,
and you come to this place of like where it's like they call it self-acceptance. I don't even know that I like that term, but just like I
mm.
like who I am,
That's
and
huge.
like what other people say about me, and just stepping into that. And sometimes I'm gonna make some people upset. It's like, well, I think this is where I was really going. It's like, over what, right? So I
Yeah.
made this post about cancer, and like I'm very careful to say my journey, right? Like this is what it was my experience. You can't
Yes.
take that away from me, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then someone telling me that I'm wrong about the science and the data and all this kind of stuff. It's like, right, because I'm sure you spent 2 years of your life digging through because one day you were going to argue on a Facebook thread. So, but because like being willing to be firm and to express my opinion on something that I value, right? It's like, hey, someone could read this and read what you're saying, and that could be harmful to them. And I believe that. So I'm not going to try and be captain friendly in this one. I'm going to like say
Mm.
what I feel. And it's like, if it lands the wrong way, remove me.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you do get that kind of self-worth, which is really the biggest thing that was missing for me, then it's kind of like you could not be fine with that, and that's fine too. And I could not be fine with it, and that's fine too. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
Plus, I think the reason why we're kind of in the situation we're in today, where there's lies everywhere, like
Oh, yeah.
what the heck is real anymore, is because of this tendency to, not that holding back is not good, because I do think some people aren't ready for that level of information, and
True.
it could be harmful for them to even hear it, which is sad for them, honestly, because I'm like,
It's a
man,
maturity thing too, right?
it
It's
is.
like, are you the type of person that's going to use that against someone and all the other things? Like, I don't want to be the judge of that. I want to live
Mhm.
who I am in this place of like, I'm going to be me, man. Owen
Yeah,
video. Which,
yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I
well,
think for me,
promising some added richness behind the scenes, like become a close friend, and you might even
you
see,
get the
kind of
real.
like beside the cussing a little bit. You know
The
what I mean?
side that gets, I always, yeah, I surprise people with that sometimes too, because my wife and I were not potty mouths, where we have to check ourselves sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's shocking to people, because I had this fake persona that I had, where it was kind of like, I'm polite and I'm friendly and I'm smart enough and it's good enough, and that was kind of how I lived. And now I'm like, oh no, I have strong opinions about almost
Mhm.
everything.
I love that. I love that. I really do. I love these stories of like, kind of falling into the leader you were meant to be. And I do look at you as a leader, and I look at the people that
Thank
we
you.
serve in our client base as leaders. They're tomorrow's leaders today. They're already, and leaders, we act differently, right? We go through a journey, we get forged by fire. And going back to like the beginning is like, I'm not going to say I look forward to the fire, but I think it was Marcus Aurelius who said
Mm,
that comfort is the enemy of excellence.
mm,
And that's, oh, dude, I love to strive for excellence. I'm not trying to necessarily beat you or beat her or whatever the case. Like, I am competitive, and I am like, I like that part of it, but ultimately I'm trying to build the thing that I'm trying to
mm,
build. And sort of like, be like, I don't have to be Elon Musk. I don't have to be Jeff Bezos. Like, that was actually a thing I had to go through, right?
mm.
Because it was like, no, it's never going to be good enough unless I could be like this world billionaire leader. And you know what kind of killed it for me was that space race.
Oh yeah, or it's
I
just
just
like,
thought it
wow,
was
you
so,
guys don't give a crap about anything. No
yeah, like,
orphanages or
totally.
cancer research centers, but let's see who could get the biggest
One
rocket in
spaceship,
space.
you all go together, right?
Yeah,
Like, for the
leave
sake
us
of
alone.
technology, I I was right there with you. I was just like, you know what? I don't think I need to be that. I think that I could be really happy. And it's like, well, what does that look like? And I began to like ask myself that and building it out with my wife in terms of like where would you be on this? And I think ultimately like she would be happy at a different level, right? At a different
Mm.
achievement thing. But we've had to come to grips with like I love to achieve. So I'm always going to be looking at something to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we're both really happy with that. We're both excited to see like what's the next thing we try to achieve.
Yeah, no, well, I think you're an excellent example of that, and we'll probably have you back on just so we could talk about making videos, which would be good.
Fun.
But this has been great, and I think you're somebody people should look at, especially if they're struggling with something huge like beating cancer and making big life changes where you're changing countries, like, and I think people are more open to it than they've ever been. And
Yeah.
I think you're just on the, just the forward edge of where everybody's starting to get to, where they're opening themselves up to, hey, I don't need a bigger house and I don't need 10 cars and I don't need a boat and all this other crap. But like, no, where can I be right now, happy and living today with my family? Because that's actually,
Rent a
the
boat,
most
man.
fleeting
Like
thing.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
try it
Either
out.
rent a boat or start a boat business, man. Those are your options there. So it's like a whole thing. But thanks for having me on, Mark. It's good to talk with you. It's like it's always nice to see you doing what you do online, man. You do it well.
Well, thank you. And like I actually learned a lot from you. So I'm going to start applying your YouTube stuff because now I'm launching a new YouTube series. So
Good.
going to use your tips. I'll let you know how it goes.
Subscribe today.
Where can people learn more about you?
I'm everywhere on the web at Owen Video, and you can check out my cancer content at Cancer Fighter Owen on Instagram. There'll be links to YouTube from there, but that's the best place to find out about the cancer journey is at Cancer Fighter Owen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all you do, Owen. I think you're a symbol to look at, I think, for people. And I think you're doing good things. Looking forward to see what you do next. And I'll probably see it because I see you on time online
Yeah, I
just
better be.
constantly. I'm like, oh man, that's
As
a
much
content
time
creator
as
right
I
there.
spend, I better be on your feed. Jeez. Thanks for having
Uh,
me, bro. Good to talk to you.
all right. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcast Mark, where we talk about personal development, professional development, and business development in that order. Come back and listen to more.